When I was mayor, I used to encourage people to go to the restaurants and spend their money while they're here. When you're United States Senator, you go right to houses and cars, bigger purchases. But first, let me say welcome to Rhode Island. We're thrilled to have you here. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary leadership of Jeff Grabowski, whose vision really was what led to Rhode Island being the first state in North America to have an offshore wind farm, and his tenacity and perseverance. So he deserves a round of applause. It is also incredibly wonderful to be with our governor, who has made job creation and revitalizing Rhode Island's economy her almost singular purpose in her first years as governor, and has been a willing and excited partner for any business investment that will help put Rhode Islanders back to work. This is a great example of that, and obviously a passionate believer in the development of renewable energy and environmental stewardship and a sensible response to climate change. So thank you, Governor, for your extraordinary leadership. And Senator Whitehouse is really the leader of our delegation, and frankly the leader in the Senate on the issue of climate change and of our responsibility to respond to climate change in a serious way, and who has brought not only raised the consciousness of his colleagues in that chamber, but I think in many ways has raised the consciousness of our nation to the importance of this issue. So I thank and salute my senator for his extraordinary leadership. I have just a couple of points to add to what the governor and what Senator Whitehouse have described about this issue. But I want to say that one of the things that I think we have to be particularly mindful of is that this is obviously very important effort in terms of meeting our energy demands and protecting our planet for all the obvious reasons. But also there's another part of this that relates to the national security of our country and to the stability of the world. You know, if you think about what American leadership has provided all over the world, as a result of strong American leadership, democratic ideals have really spread around the world, and in many ways helped to invigorate the world's economy and lead to rising prosperity for millions of people all over the globe. But despite this progress, climate change really does now threaten to tear at the fabric of the peace that we have worked so hard to build around the world. You know, we have obviously our own geopolitical challenges, from the rise of ISIS, to increased Chinese assertiveness in the South Pacific, to Russian aggression in Syria and Ukraine. But the one thing that all of our leaders in the military are united around is the notion that climate change is among the greatest national security challenges of our time. And you think about what the potential dangers are of failing to respond to the serious consequences of climate change. It threatens really to uproot tens of millions of people, destroy critical infrastructure, and create the kind of instability that allows threats to our national security to develop. Our national security folks refer to climate change as a threat multiplier, making peace in regions already fraught with conflict even more difficult. And the Department of Homeland Security considers climate change a major homeland security risk. So when you think about the responsibility that we have, not only to develop energy, renewable energy, to protect our planet, to meet our energy demands, to create good paying jobs, but also its international consequences and its consequences in terms of stability around the world, it makes the work that you all do even more urgent. You think about its impact here, even in our state of Rhode Island, the ocean state where so much of our economy surrounds tourism, and the impact that climate change is having on our oceans is making a real difference and causing a risk not only to some of our tourism, but to some of our habitats that provide a lifeline and a livelihood for so many Rhode Island families. And so I'm really here to say thank you for what you are doing, not only for your innovation and ingenuity and for the work that you are doing to help respond to this issue, but to take a moment of pride in our state, because we understood all of that, the local, the state, and the federal level, and that's why you saw that beautiful film. As the governor said, this is a state where I think you will find an extraordinary willingness to work together at the local, state, and federal level to make projects like this happen. Labor and management, we have great labor leaders who are part of this conference today who are a critical part of this as well. We have a role finally in Washington to support this work and to support your industry. Unfortunately, at least in my chamber, and I know maybe to a lesser extent in Senator Whitehouse's chamber, We're dealing with a situation where leaders of one of the major political parties in our country refer to climate change as a hoax designed by the Chinese to weaken our economy. Obviously, not only does this contradict the views of almost every scientist I know, or scientists I've ever read about, as well as the leadership of our military, but it puts our country at a real disadvantage as the rest of the world invests in the renewable energy sector. And I'm very proud that there is a kind of different approach by those of us in the Congress on the Democratic side, and we're very focused on what we can do in terms of creating incentives and making serious investments to help spark this sector of our economy. But I think if we don't sort of mention the elephant in the room, there's a real challenge with the leadership of many of the people we send to Washington on this issue, and so it feels appropriate to say 2 weeks before an election, think about these issues as you make your important voting decisions, because it matters. You can have an argument about what's the best way to respond to climate change. Is it a carbon tax? Is it conservation? Is it wind? But if you don't fundamentally accept the science surrounding it, it's hard to have a conversation about good energy policy. So thank you for what you're doing to not only contribute to that conversation, but to help us protect our planet, meet our energy demands, and do it with great innovation and ingenuity. I hope you have a very productive conference and enjoy Rhode Island.